Welcome to the Presidential Roundtable. My name is Surakit Natiswan. I'm the Vice President for International Relations of Mahidol University, and I'll be your MC today. And first of all, I would like to welcome all of you to this historic building. This is the birthplace of our university. Back in 1888, with the passing of Prince Sirilat, which his picture is on your on this board on the left-hand side. Because of his passing, King Rama V thought that even his own son could suffer from a disease and passed away. And how about the general public? With that in mind, he decided to modernize the healthcare system of Thailand by making the initiative to start Sirilat Hospital to serve the underserved, with the mind of trying to improve the healthcare system of this country. And of course, his picture, King Rama V, is at the center of this hall. And our university, as you may know, is named Mahidol. And the reason for it is because Prince Mahidol of Songkhla is one of the celestial sons of King Rama V, who has pretty much carried the torch that his father has started and trying to modernize the healthcare system and also healthcare education of this beloved nation. And because of his contribution, we become one of the key leading universities that serve the community, which pretty much a topic of discussion today, which is university social responsibility. First of all, I would like to get everyone oriented about the flow of these activities today. First, the attendance of this presidential roundtable are presidents, rectors, chancellors, or vice chancellors from about 40 institutions. And of course, those who cannot attend are kind enough to send their delegates, which are the vice president, vice rector, deputy VC, to come and be present in this meeting. In addition to this, we also have a representative from APAIE Board of Directors here, President, and also the President-elect, and also the board member. And the complete list of other names are available on the table, so you can check whether your friends are here, if it's too far away to see. Then, we're going to have this 1 hour of the presentation. The topic is University and Social Responsibility, and these are the panelists: President Rashata Nawin, President Joseph Song, and Dato Hanafi. And each of them will give us about 20 minutes presentation, which, in total 60 minutes, followed by 30 minutes of questions, answer, and discussion. After that, we're going to have a group photo at Prince Mahidol Circle. This is very important to us, and I hope that you would come and take part in this historic photo group. And for lunch, for presidents, VC, and his or her representatives, lunch set will be served here at this meeting room. And for APAIE Board of Directors, lunch will be at the Royal Medical College Auditorium. This is because of the limitation of the space, and we have to ask the board to join the Royal Medical College Auditorium for lunch. And this is where you are. If you look at number 1 here, the green one here, this is a conference venue, Sisawalintala building, where you were during the opening ceremony. And this is where you are, Presidential Roundtable, this building. And then we are on the 2nd floor. Once we finish this discussion, we will go down and then walk toward the Prince Mahidol Circle here and have that historic group photo taken together. Without further ado, I would like to go on and proceed with the presentation, the first presentation. First, let me introduce my beloved president. I get twice the raise for that sentence. President Rashata, he's a medical doctor by training. He received his Bachelor of Science initially from the Faculty of Science of Mahidol University. Later on, he received his Doctor of Medicine from the Faculty of Medicine, Roundtable Hospital. Then he went on to receive training in internal medicine, and finally he received fellowship training in endocrinology and metabolism from University of Massachusetts Medical School, United States. For his academic excellence, he has been a true researcher, and he has spearheaded so many useful projects with the aim to improve the public health status of Thai people. Some of his outstanding work has been about the iodine supplementation to help with the growth retardation problems that we have in the past. He also did an excellent work in the osteoporosis and also thyroid disorders research. He received numerous awards for his work. He published over 150 publications in English and a lot of publications in Thai and also English textbook and Thai textbook. For his administrative experience, he has served in various positions, both inside Mahidol University and outside, for example, the Food and Drug Administration of Thailand. Before he became president, he has served as the dean for the Faculty of Medicine at Roundtable Hospital, where he has pretty much revolutionized how the Faculty of Medicine work and have done so many excellent jobs in terms of trying to promote the engagement of the Faculty of Medicine with the public. And he became the president of Mahidol University in December of 2012. Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Dr. Surakit. And on behalf of Mahidol University, I'd like to welcome all of you again to Mahidol University to APAIE 2012. I do hope that you didn't have much difficulty commuting from your hotel to the venue this morning. And I wish you a wonderful stay in Bangkok. Can I have my slide, please? We're going to discuss about university social responsibility. Can you please, thank you, I'm sorry. Yeah. University social responsibility. I think first we got to ask ourselves two questions. The first one, why does university exist? And the second one, what is the major responsibility of the university? Well, the university is the center of civilization for the pursuit, production, dissemination, application, preservation of knowledge. Then comes the answer to the second question, that the major responsibility of the university is for it to apply its knowledge for the benefit of the society where it belongs, or in larger context, to humanities, if applicable. The university is owned by the societies. Societies give support to university in many ways, through tax money, through other contributions in many fashion. And the university should also give back to the university through value-added activities, so that the bond between the university and the society should be a close one, a cordial one. While the university leads the way, acts as a guiding light, gives warmth and comfort to the society supports the university. So if this is the case, then we probably don't have to discuss about USR, because the responsibility of the university is our objective already. But that is not always the case in true life. Let's examine what is inside our university at the moment. The university comprises of faculties, institutes, colleges, staff with professors, researchers, instructors, students, who usually works in the areas of expertise, areas they think interest the most within their walls of faculties, their boundaries, territory, very comfortable in their silos, but very seldom that they're going to interact with other faculty members or outside university. On the other side of the equation, the society. As the society thrives, it's certainly going to face many problems, challenges. The challenges that sometimes destabilize the social society itself. For the Thai context, for example, we are facing aging populations. We are facing the teenage pregnancy. I wouldn't like to tell you, but I have to tell you the fact that right now, teenage pregnancy in this country is the highest in Asia and second in the world. And we have political divide, as you may be aware, the red shirts, the yellow shirts, floods, etc. So then, if the university neglect to care about what's happening in the society, then the bond between the university and the society will reduce to such a narrow passage like this, not to be a 10-lane highway, superhighway that it should be. So that's why the concept of ivory tower has come up. The academics live happily in their high tower, doing their business, turning blind eyes and deaf ears to what's happening outside. So this is why at one moment the academics, some enlightened academics and some members of the society also stop to think that this is not the way it should be. We should do our responsibility, that what we're supposed to do, and then comes up with the phrase UNC social responsibility. Now let's take a look at the corporates, the industry. This is the different ballgame. The corporates goes after profit. They try to make as much profit to satisfy their shareholders. They do not have much to do with the society, with the bond between the societies, not very strong, except for them to supply the new products, new services to the society. And as the corporates try to make more and more profits, then inevitably the social problems is also augmented. This is because the operations of the industry, very often they may destabilize the social structures. Like, for example, the child employment, deforestation, or dumping of toxic waste, which make it harmful to the environment. And the society cannot stay stabilized if this happens without stopping. And I think the corporate starts to realize that they too cannot let this happen, because it's going to threaten their stabilities, their sustainabilities also. And they know very well that even though capitalism is the best model of economy, which has withstand the test of time, but it's not ideal. Why? Because the wealth and happiness is not distributed fairly among different social classes. And while the poor get poorer and poorer and enter the vicious cycle of poverty, ignorance, illnesses, they cannot escape from this cycle. So once the corporates know, they have to adjust. And that's why concept like creative capitalism has surfaced. That somehow they got to modify capitalism in such a way that it's going to serve more classes, more sectors in the societies. There can be many approaches. For example, differential pricing for certain populations or direct donations. So this is the direction that has been going in the corporate side of view. But the community or the society is not staying idle either, because they too realize that they cannot let the corporate do whatever they want to the society. So they have come up with certain concepts like ethical consumerism, that the public not going to support the corporates who do not do their work ethically. They're not going to support the corporates who jeopardize human rights or encroaches upon resources or do harm to the environment. And they're not going to support those corporates. So this is why the words corporate social responsibility has come into existence, and the corporates take this as very important, that they're going to survive because of this concept, because as the social get support from the corporates, then the corporates can stay on also with ensuring their sustainability. So the concept has now changed, that the corporate is not only think about making profit for themselves, but they're going to have some profit return to the society, for more people going to enjoy more benefits. And also they have to think about well-being of the people in the society also, the welfare of the people that the corporates is the part of, and also the corporates going to not to forget about preserving our planet also. So the 3 P's, profits, people, and planets, is going to be the key that the corporates trying to preserve and to give back to the society. But let's stop and think for just a minute. But isn't this scheme the responsibility or our objective for us to run the university? Because the universities has to give back profits to the societies, have to improve the welfare, well-being of the society, and also to preserve the environment. The corporates always like to follow standards, and this is the CSR standard for corporate, ISO 26000. It consists of 7 modules. But if you take a look at these 7 modules, it's not difficult for us to recognize that this is also the directions that the university should be run. Now, this is our philosophy of Prince Mahidol. We took his teaching as our philosophy, and he once said that true success is not in the learning, but in its application to the benefit of mankind. And our determination statement is wisdom of the land. So I can give you many examples how Mahidol University can do its job to serve the society through our missions, through our strategies, to connect, to engage society by our academics, by our students. But I do not have much time, a very limited amount of time. So that's going to give you just one example how we do it. You probably be aware of the problems, political problems we have in the deep south provinces of our country. The problem cannot be solved by military power. It can only be solved by understanding, trust among different groups of populations living there. So our academics has tried different approaches through their research by introducing bilingual, bi-language teaching in the kindergarten and primary school, using both Malay and Thai language for teaching, not using only one language exclusively. And this practice has proved successful, that the students with different backgrounds, different religious belief, has now have a more understanding of each other, trust each other. And we wait a few years more when they are going to grow up to be grown-up people, when they're going to understand each other more, trust each other, and by that time then the peace will eventually endure. This is just one example. That's, you know, I can give you more examples, but unfortunately, due to lack of time. So I think we got to think and, you know, rethink about how the university works. The faculties, colleges, institutes, they got to destroy the silos and try to interact and work across the discipline as much as possible. So they're going to have power enough to solve the problem that threatens the society. And they got to have a network with the government agencies, other universities. They got to have a network with independent international agencies. They have to network with the private sectors, and last but not least, the communities. So this is a scheme that will enable the potential of the university to serve the university, to serve the society, so that they can help solve the problems of the society where the university belongs. This is my last comment about the university ranking. This is the QS international ranking, criteria and weights. The first criteria is research quality and output. Second one, graduates employability. Third one, international outlook. And the fourth one, teaching quality. And you can see the weights and the indicators. In my opinion, these rankings criteria do not truly reflect how the universities have responsibility to the society. It doesn't reflect the performance of the university, how they help solve the social problems. So I would like to propose that we should come up with a new set of performance indicators which would truly reflect the performance of the university towards social responsibility. I give you one example for the case of MIT, for example. during the past 30 years, it's been documented that 25,000 over companies were founded by MIT alumni. 3.3 plus million jobs been added, and over $2 trillion US in annual sales. So this is one indicators how the university have give profits back to the society. And for the case of Mahidol University, there has been many projects that we have done for the society. For example, the universal health care coverage that right now all the Thai people are enjoying. Everyone's got medical coverage. The development of the first HIV vaccine, or the eradication of protein energy malnutrition. 50 years ago, over 50% of children have had protein energy malnutrition. Right now, it's under 5%. And I can tell you proudly that our academics and alumni have a lot to contribute to all this success. So we should have come with certain indicators how to measure it that should fit the university rankings, because the role of the university, don't forget, is to serve the society, not the surrogate indicators that we are now using. So I just like to put a seed for further discussion. Is that do we need to discuss about USR if we do our job right? And I would like to end my talk by His Royal Highness saying that true success is not in the learning, but in its application for the benefit of mankind. It is the philosophy of our university, and I hope it is the philosophy of your university also. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much for a very thought-provoking presentation, and I hope that you agree with me that we will have some time to discuss about this. But without further ado, I would like to introduce the second speaker. And the second speaker is Professor Joseph Sung. He is the Vice Chancellor and the President of the Chinese University of Hong Kong. From now on, I will call CUHK. And Professor Sung is also a medical doctor by training. He graduated from the Queen's College in Hong Kong and then received his MBBS degree from University of Hong Kong. Later on, he received his PhD in biomedical science by University of Calgary, and then a Doctor of Medicine by CUHK. For his academic success, he has started as the lecturer at the Department of Medicine of CUHK and later on promoted to the Professor of Medicine and Therapeutics in 1998. He had extensive administrative experience as Associate Dean, and then also he was appointed as the Mok Hing Yui Professor of Medicine in November 2007 for his recognition in the contribution to the prevention and early diagnosis of gastroenterology cancers. For his research focus it's about intestinal bleeding, Helicobacter pylori, peptic ulcer, hepatitis, and colorectal cancer. And he has published over 680 full scientific articles in leading journals, and also authored more than 15 books. He received numerous awards. One of the very distinguished awards is the Distinguished Award for Fighting SARS. As you may remember, we have problems with SARS in this region, and because of his work, he has received this award. He also received many awards, and in 2009, his seminal lectures on peptic ulcer bleeding won Professor Song the Marshall and Warren Lecture Award, the most prestigious award in gastroenterology in the Asia-Pacific region. In the same year, he also awarded the Endoscopy Award by the German Society of Gastroenterology. Professor Sung, the stage is yours.
Thank you. First of all, may I thank Mahidol University for this kind invitation. I feel very much like home because this conference is held in a hospital, and all three speakers are, by chance, clinicians. So I feel very much like home sitting here. And I'm also very impressed by the keynote speech today, as well as the President's lecture this morning about universities' responsibility in the community, not just to increase the numbers and our ranking and our dollar signs to boost how great we are, but we as a university, as an educational provider, we should have a great social responsibility. That leads me to my introduction. This is a very important book that I have read by Harry Lewis, who was the Dean of Harvard University. He said university has forgotten their educational role for college students. They succeed better than ever as creator and repositories of knowledge, but they have forgotten that the fundamental job is to turn 18 and 19-year-old kids into adults. I think more and more we are going towards quantifying our achievement by the number of papers, number of patents, number of companies, as you mentioned, that the university has created. But after all, the most important mission of a university is to produce students who will be future leaders of the world, and they must therefore know their responsibilities as future leaders of the world. Recently, some of us had a meeting in London, the British Council meeting called Going Global among universities' leaders. And this topic has actually come up in our discussion. It mentioned that in the UK and in some other countries, because of the change of our educational system, students are now more and more regarded as our customers, in fact, instead of our students. And when students become customers, universities become vendors. And we are here to provide good services and to satisfy students' needs. Well, there's nothing wrong to satisfy students' needs, but I think good education should encompass more than that. So in my view, which actually echoes a lot of speakers today's view, is that the mission of a university should train future citizens of the world. I'm talking about citizens of the world and not just citizens of its own city or even its own country. And being a citizen, we know that we have certain rights to claim, human rights, rights to have a good life, rights to have a good job, and so on and so forth. But as a good citizen, we also should be cognizant that we have responsibilities to shoulder. So rights and responsibilities should go hand in hand. Therefore, if a university is to train future leaders and future citizens of the world, we should not train people who are egocentric and just focus on their own career development and their own good in the future, but they should also know what is their responsibilities for the world and for their own country. And this should be a global view instead of a very narrow-minded local view. So why do we need a global view? Because almost all the major issues that we are facing these days are interdependent. We are living in a global village, so issues like global economic growth, the recent financial crisis affects the whole world. Carbon emission from one country cannot be just affecting that particular country. It will affect the global climate. Public health, and this is probably the best place to talk about infectious disease and the impact of infectious disease like HIV/AIDS, influenza, or SARS for that matter, is a global issue. and virus and germs do not have any respect for borders. So we have been actually bombarded by various global issues, and our mission, I believe, is to make sure that our students are aware of their responsibilities in handling these global issues. So 2 years ago, since I took the office, I'm sorry this is in Chinese, but it was taken from a newspaper from Hong Kong. We have started at the Chinese University to have a program called I Care. That means I care about not just myself, but our community and our city and our world. And the university is has resolved to find 100 million to support a program to give our students exposure and experience into various global issues. So let me take you through our path in how I see CUHK can fulfill social responsibilities. First of all, I think we must start from a intellectual, cognitive level, and university should provide a forum for students to discuss, to know about, and to debate social issues. And I would explain this more. And secondly, other than just being intellectual exercise, we should take our students to the real world to let them experience what poverty means, what is the meaning of sexual discrimination or viral infection which affects the public life, and so on. And finally, I think in the campus we should practice social responsibilities of the university. So we have in the past held a lot of forum. This is in fact the Secretary of Justice of Hong Kong, Mr. Wong, who came to give us a talk on leadership and service to our university students. So we have been holding a lot of forum like this to make students being aware of social issues. But other than just the formal forum, we have informal ones like this. This is in one of our college forum in which animal rights were being discussed. So how should we respect life, not just of human beings, but also animals in the laboratory and in the wilderness. And I think Eltony said very well. He said if universities in the 21st century do not provide the students with the forums and tools to discuss and figure out what their responsibilities are to their fellow human being, and to develop the requisite nominate compass for navigating the treacherous water of global interdependence, then they would be failing in their mission. Just to simplify the statement is that we should be the forum, we should provide the forum for students to know about these issues. So what are the global issues that we want to take our students to achieve some experience? Well, obviously, poverty, aging population, discrimination, important diseases, drug abuses, natural disaster, and the list will go on and on. So I'm being a humble physician, I have the honor of taking a group of our students to a AIDS village in Uganda and practice my general medicine. I haven't done this for a long time, and to look after the AIDS orphans as well as the mothers who look after these orphans, and students being submerged into this environment actually feel much more vividly what does it mean by disease, poverty, and discrimination, much better than studying it in the classroom. And it is the first time that I actually pick up a spade and work on the bricks and mortars, because we were building an orphanage for the society. Fortunately, I did not build a major part of the orphanage, otherwise it would be quite dangerous for people to live in. But again, this kind of experience, when our students from China work with a group of workers from Africa, give them a unique experience of really feel what the world needs to make it a better place. We do not just go abroad. This is a school in Hong Kong, a very special school, which only admit drug-abused teenagers, and they are under custody of the school. So they are, in fact, built in a very isolated island in Hong Kong. So we send our students there to work with them, to teach them some English, some Chinese, to play with them, and to let them feel that, in fact, although you have done something that law does not allow, and you are now in a punishment, but we'll still respect you, and if you do well, you will be accepted by even a university in Hong Kong. And again, our students feel that they start to have the passion for the society and the societal need. This is a picture that we took our student to Sichuan in 2008 after the earthquake. We were astounded by the degree of damage in the cities and the village, but we were even more impressed by the people who live there, who face all these casualties and calamities, but they are still very strong. So although we go there to, we brought some food, we brought some clothes, and we play with the children, we teach them some English, and I was again holding my stethoscope and playing a doctor's role and so on. But in fact, I think we probably benefit from this trip more than the villagers benefit from our visit, because our student has never had such experience of providing service in very much needed community, especially after a natural disaster like this. So right now our university has formed a partnership with Oxford to train people from all over China how to handle disaster from the public health point of view. And again, this is one of the ways that we are trying to fulfill our responsibilities as a university. Now, finally, I'll come to, instead of going out, I think we should also practice social responsibilities in the campus. Because after all, university campus is a miniature image of the society. So everything that happens in the university, in fact, can happen in the future when they go into the community. So we emphasize a lot on green initiatives, try to not just to put in the hardware to save energy, but we also want to launch different campaigns to change people's behavior. We also take corporate social responsibilities in our university community. From now on, we will have no shark fin soup in our banquet. Some of you may know that this is a famous dish in Chinese banquet, and we refuse to use that. The government has implemented minimum wages in the whole city of Hong Kong. So in all our outsourced work, well, I'm sure our professors are not having minimum wages, but some of the outsourced work are. So we will have to make sure that all these restaurant waiters, instruction workers, and so on are properly treated at the expense of increase in our budgets in spending. But we will have to teach the student that we will need to pay the workers a reasonable salary. procurement of our university, we should follow social responsibilities. We try our best to procure from social enterprise companies for products and services. And we actually put up a fund to help students to start their own social enterprise if they have a good idea. So every year we run a competitions in the whole of Hong Kong, and whoever got the first prize, we actually give them some money to start their wonderful idea in social enterprise. And lastly, if there is dispute and crisis, we also want to learn from this disputes and crisis what is the university's social responsibility. So this is just some details about our environmental work. It actually spanned from just planting a few trees in the campus to going out into the community, because we want to use the university campus as a showpiece for the community, how we save energy, but we also go out to the community to teach them and to help them to make their buildings and their facilities more energy saving and emit less carbon. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think our students are really teenagers. They are like a blank sheet of paper. We need to write on this blank sheet of paper the right thing so that they will become responsible adults. And being a comprehensive university, we believe that humanity and science and technology should go hand in hand in order to make a better life for our world. And lastly, I would finish by quoting James Conant, is that education is what's left after all that has been learned is forgotten. I'm sure our students will forget everything professors teach them on their PowerPoints and stuff. But I think this kind of experience, this kind of concepts shall perpetuate. Thank you very much.
Thank you for a very enlightening presentation. And now we come to the third presentation. And for the third presentation, we received the honor from Dr. Zulkarnain Hanafi. And Dr. Sal was appointed as the Vice Chancellor of University Brunei Darussalam on 9th August of 2008. And again, a medical doctor by training. He is otorhinolaryngologist, head and neck surgeon. So the first two medicine, and then the last one is the surgeon. So we would be very interesting to hear, his approach, how he cuts and dies. And Dr. Sal received his training from Liverpool University, United Kingdom, and his fellowship from the Royal College of Surgeons from Edinburgh, United Kingdom. Dr. Sal has extensive experience in working as a doctor and also administrative roles. Some of his previous position is the past president of the ASEAN Otorhinolaryngological Head and Neck Surgery Federation from 2003 to 2005. He also worked very closely with the Ministry of Health in leading so many important projects for Brunei Darussalam. And he also has served as the inaugural dean of the Institute of Medicine, University Brunei Darussalam, and also visiting scholars from University of Hong Kong and Kagawa University in Japan. Dr. Zhao was conferred the honorary fellowship from the Royal College of General Practitioners of United Kingdom in 2007, which is the highest honor that the Royal College of General Practitioners bestow on an individual outside of the general practice profession. In Brunei Darussalam, he also served as many important national organizations. For example, Brunei Darussalam National Education Forum Council, and also the planning and development of the Prime Minister's Office and the National Steering Committee tasked for coordinating a feasibility study on building macroeconomic model for his country. Dr. Sal, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much. A very good noon to everyone. President Rajatanavind, President of Mahidol University, and President Lee of APAIE. First and foremost, I'd like to thank both of you for inviting me here for this wonderful conference. It's actually my first time to the APAIE conference, and also my first time, believe it or not, to Thailand, which I'm very shameful, as we have a lot of students at the moment, which I will share with you later on, who are spending time in the Thailand Deep South, actually, doing exactly what both of you have alluded to at this very moment. I'm in a bit of a dilemma at the moment because most of what I said has probably been touched. It's also a challenge because it's pre-lunch time. So what I'll try and do, if I'm repeating myself, please excuse me. I'll try and skim through it as fast as I could. But what I thought I'll do today is maybe in the next 15 minutes or so to briefly go through the definition and really what is the purpose of our existence as a university. Talk a little bit about the current context. Now, Brunei is very small. I think most of you here probably who's not from Asia would not have heard of Brunei, and allow me to talk a little bit about my university and the case of social responsibility within my university and some thoughts about moving forward. I'm not going to be talking about any solutions as such. I think it was really an inspiring keynote address this morning, and I do hope that I'll have the opportunity to meet up with a speaker before I go, but here goes. If you Google social responsibility, you probably have over 7 million hits, and in the majority, they're talking about the corporate world. And I think broadly speaking, this is one of the definition. It's the way company or organization gives back to and takes care of the community where it's located, basically giving back into the greater society. Now, I found another definition here, which is much more involved, and this was actually coined by Lord Holm, the World Business Council for Sustainable Development. And again, it's a corporate definition as well. But here he stressed on being ethical, to contribute to economic development, while ensuring that, you know, people in the organization, the workforce and their families, as well as those in the local community that they serve and globally are well taken care of. Allow me to talk briefly about the university. Now, depending on where you read this, I mean, we're talking about medieval university, one would probably say that Bologna is the first ever university as an organization. Then if you read other articles, then perhaps Al-Azhar in Egypt would probably claim to be the first university in existence. But then again, of course, there's Nalanda University in India as well. We've got colleagues from India here. You probably would argue a case for this. But nonetheless, I think what John Newman has been writing about in his work on the idea of the university, personally I feel still pretty much stand really, where a university is considered as a studium generale. And it's actually a spot, if you like, where students and professors from every corner would actually come together to actually learn, to create new knowledge, and perhaps to apply this knowledge. Then one would ask, what is the mission of the university in the 21st century? Are we still the custodian of knowledge? Are we still responsible for development of new knowledge and its dissemination and application? And are we still responsible for educating future generations of the leaders? I mean, these are all obvious questions, but I think given the fact that what my two colleagues have spoken about earlier on with the capitalist state of the world at the moment, you know, are we really allowed to do this within our remit, or are we being kind of pushed or channeled through some sort of medium to come up with what is required by consumers? So there are challenges of university. I mean, this is not exhaustive at all. Everyone here in this room knows that it's not easy to run a university. It's a very expensive place. Funding's getting less, and yet we're expected to perform just as well, if not better. Then there is the, if you like, the commoditization of universities these days. We've seen a lot of universities are now very active, if you like, trying to recruit students. There is the issue of globalization. Everything is so connected. Disease in one part of the world or pollution in one part of ASEAN, for example, could be felt elsewhere. Then there is also the question of what are the roles of faculty. I mean, traditionally, a professor has always been, you know, someone who knows everything, and then students would listen to them. But again, now, if you look at our students, they've got greater expectations of their professors, and certainly we're seeing a lot of that in my own country itself. Then there's balance of research and learning, and then, of course, geopolitical shifts. What's going to happen is Obama is still going to be in office. I mean, we've got some American colleagues here. New leadership in China, for example. The relevance of ASEAN during these power shifts, what is going to happen. So these are some considerations that we need to take into account. Consumer intelligence, I was just being very polite to the likes of QS and THES here, but I think that's basically what I'm trying to get at there. Are we really going to be governed by such, I would say, non-academic entity? Actually, I've just come from the QS conference actually in Jeju. That's my first attendance in that, but it was quite an interesting conference, and I'll speak to anyone who's interested privately later on about that. And then, of course, you know, the uncertain job market. You know, what's the world of work's going to be like in 5 years, in 10 years, 20 years down the line. So really now at the university, I see us as doing a balancing act. As much as we want to sustain our traditional role as custodian and organization for the creation of new knowledge and its application, there are also other roles of the university as dictated by society and particularly in this new economy. I mean, these days you've probably heard about how certain universities emerge because of lack of funding, other universities are closed down, and then there are more and more universities being corporatized. Again, personally, I feel this is a very short-term thinking because in a knowledge-based economy, I think the way we actually innovate new knowledge would actually, you know, be key to economic growth. So this is something that one has to be mindful of. Briefly about Brunei, we claim to be in the heart of ASEAN actually, and that's because everywhere we go, to Bangkok, to Manila, Jakarta, Singapore, it's all within 2 hours. So to our other colleagues in ASEAN, I think we are at the heart of ASEAN, but never mind. But we are also the smallest in ASEAN as well, in terms of population. Of course, Singapore land mass is smaller than us, but they're 10 times more in terms of population. And it's a sultanate. We've got about 406,000 people, and our economy is heavily, and I would say either directly, indirectly, 90% are relying on oil and gas. And that's our income per capita based on the 2008 figures, and something that I don't really want to talk much about because there are actually downsides to that as well. In terms of indicators, we're not doing too badly. We're highest in terms of the Human Development Index in the Islamic world, second highest per capita income in ASEAN after Singapore. And we've got one of the best healthcare systems in Asia. We've got very good coverage within the countries. You can imagine, you know, with such a small catchment population, it's much easier than the likes of the other partner countries within ASEAN. So we're blessed, really. Young university, we've only been around just over 26 years old. Small student population, under about 5,000, 25% of which are graduate students and 10% international. And then about 400 faculty staff. And we're an English medium university. These are some of the faculties that we have. And these are some of the graduate and research work that we do. Just to briefly share with you here, these are the key foci, if you like, as far as research is concerned for us, because we're basically aligning ourselves to really the core vision of the country, and also what really matters, not just in the country, but in the global sense as well. So, back to social responsibility. Like I said, we take social responsibility very seriously, and we certainly reflect that in our mission, and we want to develop individual and society as a whole. We want to be ethical about it, and therefore we do it through the cultivation of the intellect, faith, and culture. And the rest of it is what most university would actually subscribe to as well. This is our vision, and again, you know, we want to be international because I think this is important in this day and age, but we do not want to be, you know, moving away from our own national identity, which we hold strongly, and I know this is the case in Thailand as well, and a few other countries. So what we've done is, back in 2008, we decided that the previous format of the way we were working was good, but I think moving forward, with all the challenges, you know, upon us, we feel that we need to really re-strategize, and we decided to undergo a major institutional reform that really further enhances our social responsibility. These are some of the reasons why we decided to undertake the reform, aside from the different challenges that I've alluded to earlier on. Things like, for example, oil and gas. We're so heavily dependent on it, but of course this, you know, this is a finite commodity. And one of the downside of oil and gas is that we've got very, very complacent group of young people within the country. We've got very good literacy rate. We're in the high 90%. We've got excellent primary, secondary enrollment rate, mid to high 90%. But when it gets to tertiary level, we're only about 15%. So that's very, very low. And majority of graduates from the university would actually aspire to work for the government rather than create new jobs or work in the private sector. So it is a problem for us. So what we did, and this is something that was mentioned earlier on, we were famous and unpopular within the space of about 3 minutes when I made the announcement. We did an organizational restructuring. We decided to close all departments because there were just, people were working in silos. So we don't have any departments anymore. Instead, what we have is cross-disciplinary programs. Instead of having a geography department, for example, we have colleagues from the faculty of science who are chemists and who are mathematicians, would work with geographer and come up with an environmental program and the likes of that. We did a major curricular overhaul. And what has happened is that we want to make sure that people are beginning to become more accountable. There is transparency. There's no fear for conflict. We could, you know, comfortably sit around a table and have great debates without feeling rather too personal about it. We want to be very much result-oriented, and we want clear communication. And this has, you know, allowed us to come up with new sets of values for our organization. Where we value diversity of people, expertise, leadership, and relevance. And then we decided to work on the curriculum, and this is where, again, you know, where we want to make ourselves more socially responsible as well. We ensure that learning is not, it's not enough. We want the students to be able to have deep learning. We want them to be able to learn how to learn. We want them to be critical. We want them to be able to collaborate, good communication skills, and we want them to be global citizens as well. So we came up with the so-called Generation Next or Gen Next program. And within the Gen X program, there are three very important cross-cutting principles that we fully integrated in this, and that being leadership, entrepreneurship, and environmental awareness. All very important, we feel, not just in the context of Brunei, but in the global sense. Just very briefly in summary, on the left is where we were before 2008. We used to have 47 undergraduate programs, very discipline-oriented, teacher-centric, and very classroom-based. And since then, we removed all 47 programs, and we only have 4 broad-based programs, which are in the science, arts, business, and health sciences. Students could actually spend 55% of the time in the core, and the rest of the time cross faculties. So we actually encourage students from the science to cross to the arts, to education if they like, and so on. And a lot of emphasis on transdisciplinary. Professors from different faculties are actually coming together now to actually design particular modules, as I said earlier on, in environment, in energy, for example, and actually co-teach these modules. And we also make sure that the pedagogical principles are reviewed. So we not only learner-centric, but design-centric as well. As far as learning is concerned, and I think Professor Sung talked about the experiential learning. This is something that we put a lot of emphasis on. And again, I'll mention that briefly later on. We came up with this so-called discovery year. We run a 4-year program. And what we've done is in the 3rd year, every student in the undergraduate program has to leave the university, all 100% of them. We don't allow them to stay in the university, and I'll tell you what they can do in that 3rd year. This is the Discovery Year program. They can spend between 1 to 2 semesters abroad. In fact, at the moment, we've got about a dozen students being based in the Deep South, actually teaching in what we call pondok schools or hut schools. So our colleagues at Prince of Songkla and Yala University has kindly agreed to host them only over weekends. So what they do in pairs or on their own, they would actually spend the week with children in the hut school, teaching Malay, English, and basic computer literacy. We're working with an organization in Thailand to support this. And it's amazing the transformation of these students when they come back. And this is how ignorant they can be, these young people. Because most of these people perhaps have never been to Thailand, let alone outside of Brunei. And we get comments like, we don't realize, people outside of Brunei live differently from us. And some of them have since returned. Others have set up similar sort of enterprises within Brunei itself. They could also do an internship program, either within Brunei or outside. They could start up an incubation project, or they could also study abroad. So we've got a number of partners where we have exchange programs. These are some of the activities that they're doing. This is actually in Malaysia. They're doing a biodiversity internship program there. This is actually in Brunei, where they've actually worked with a community in Brunei where there's problems, social problems in terms of poverty. Believe it or not, we have poverty in Brunei. And also perhaps unemployment in that community. So some of these youngsters from our university would actually teach the youngsters there to play a percussion called hadra. And these kids will go around to weddings playing this traditional instrument, and they would earn on average about $3,000 a week, which is something that they would not have access to previously. This is some sort of a project they're doing. They're designing some sort of solar car, and this is actually student approaching communities to basically elderly ladies, housewives, who have nothing else to do within their village, and to basically trying to engage them to do something useful for the community there. And then this is another project about setting up a library in the village, where, interestingly, at the beginning, the villagers are against this because they will come up with all sorts of excuse when the students invite them to the library. So what happened is the students had to physically go to every house, knocking on the doors. Within the space of 2 months, not only more children started coming to the library, the parents who are staying at home started to come, and actually those who are not able to read are being taught how to read as well. So it has a huge impact, actually. And of course, there's also the challenge of the sustainability of the whole thing, and we worry about this, but what has happened is there is always follow-up from subsequent students in the following year, and we try to encourage that. This is not just an advertisement, but this is just to show how we are also socially responsible as far as the international context is concerned. We founded this consortium called International Consortium of Universities Looking After Biodiversity and the Environment with a couple of our partner universities there. And what has happened is this has allowed a platform for us to perhaps address some of the key issues in deforestation, in the environment, and it also allows us to actually leverage on each other's strength, and perhaps in the next meeting, I hope to see, or conference, hope to see some of you attend this conference. It also provides us a platform for student and staff exchange, and certainly goes a long way to create better understanding of people from all around the world. So finally, I asked the question again, are we really, as Newman described, studium generale? Is this something that we could sustain? As I said, I don't have the solution. It is really a balance between, maintaining the university and ensuring that we're not driven just because of the ranking and so on, but on the other hand, the societal needs. And I think my colleague did mention about, falling prey to utilitarianism and consumerist demand. But I think, on the other hand, one should also be very careful and make sure that, we are not stopped being who we are when new knowledge are constantly being created, being applied. And I think a professor in Harvard, I think, said this when he was asked, why is Harvard still teaching, some trivial language programs like Latin, I think it was, and his response was, I think it's Rozovsky, I think, the former dean of Arts and Social Science. He said, what's unuseful knowledge now may become very important in the future. And how do we know that? And so I'll leave you with this. I certainly feel that university of the 21st century is not just about teaching content, but actually to change the way our students, and of course us, see and engage the world. With that, I thank you very much.
I hope that everyone agrees with me that this is another great presentation, and we thank these 3 great presidents for 3 great presentations. And now it's open for discussion, questions, and please, anybody would like to start, and please introduce yourself and then raise the discussion issues and questions, please. Please.
Thank you very much. I'm John Hearn, Vice President International of the University of Sydney and Chief Executive of the Worldwide Universities Network. Thank you very much for the presentations, which give us a tremendous fundamental framework. I wondered if I could just make 3 comments, one on citizenship, one on global citizenship, and one on obstacles, and how far can one reform. Because citizenship, as we move to a higher proportion being educated to tertiary levels, does of course carry responsibility and social responsibility. my impression is that in providing opportunities for that expression among our students, one can be pretty optimistic. Certainly in the first year students that I teach and the second, the innovation and the commitment to work both within Australia and globally is moving and impressive. So it's a matter of allowing the students to come up with the innovations and then somehow enabling that to be done. On global citizenship, in a way, a projection of national citizenship. Excellence nationally translates to excellence globally, perhaps. And I wonder if we can find better ways to engage our students and our staff in the big challenges facing us internationally. And we can do this through working as teams bilaterally or multilaterally among some of our universities with fit-for-purpose partnerships that could assist both staff and students to make a difference. And I think the advances in IT make that now much more feasible with constant communication possible, either through social media or the more conventional communications. Lastly, obstacles that imply reform, if I could just pick three. I think that the focus on exams and the rather traditional way we assess and grade. I mean, we talk about the international gradings of universities. Should we be looking inside and looking at our gradings of students, particularly in terms of how we might put in criteria for social responsibility and give credit, and I know many universities do, give credit for time spent and service in social education. There's a big challenge because, of course, many of our students are working half-time or more to pay the bills, and that kind of focuses them away. Secondly, can we not reform and simplify curriculum, simplify content and rote learning, encourage fundamental understanding, the frontiers of knowledge, and the futures of what it means to us in a more stripped-down way that encourages thinking and questioning and allows more time for consideration, perhaps, of social engagement. And then, thirdly, international experience, which we, of course, all speak about, but at least as in our university, a small proportion do get those advantages, and we constantly look for how we could raise it. But alongside that, use our universities as internationalization centers. I mean, we have 149 nationalities present on our universities, in our university. We don't really go very far in terms of really creatively using that asset. And finally, the costs of education are getting out of control. And I think that's broadly recognized. We tend to say, well, quality costs, but are we being too simple in that? And to close, I think John Newman's statement, and I'm an early graduate of the university, National University of Ireland, which he founded, is pretty good for an international university of today. It was more Eurocentric. We're now global. But it's a great and powerful philosophy. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Let me also say that these were three very insightful presentations, and if in fact there are 9,000 universities worldwide, I'd love to see more presidents like the three of you. I think higher education would benefit tremendously. I'm William Brustein. I'm the Vice Provost for Global Strategies and International Affairs and professor at The Ohio State University, one of the United States' largest universities. And the perspective I want to present very briefly is one that I think is representative of many of the large public research, what we call land-grant universities. In 1862, just a little brief history here, when we were in the midst of our terrible Civil War, a congressman from the state of Vermont named Jason, I believe his first name was Jason Morrill, came to President Abraham Lincoln and asked, well, for the future of the United States, since most universities were these elite colleges for the top 1–2%, we should establish in different states these land-grant universities that truly serve the public. And a part of the mission became that of service, which we can look at in some ways as social responsibility. And so our university is part of that. But today we're facing a major crisis at universities such as The Ohio State University in terms of social responsibility. And the three key words that I want to put out here in terms of the challenges: one, the lack of resources, because whereas 10 years ago we were receiving something like 30–35% of funding from our states, we're down, most of us, between 5 and 10% now. So I think the lack of resources is going to play a key role in terms of the role that universities can play, particularly in the United States, with regard to social responsibility. Partnerships. I think partnerships will play a key role in terms of trying to come up with the answer, whether it's partnerships among universities around the world, or it's partnerships particularly with our stakeholders. And I'm talking here about corporate business, because I see great potential here. And the other word is self-interest. So let me turn to that in a sense, because a number of you spoke about relationships between universities and the corporate world. And it would seem that when the corporate world works with the university to help address some of the critical challenges in terms of social responsibility, we're thinking more in terms of the altruism, appeal to the altruism of these companies. But I think we might be better off as well if we appeal to their self-interest. And what I mean by that is that companies, particularly today, are thinking more and more, and I can give you examples that I've worked with, whether it's Heinz companies, whether Alcoa, Archer Daniel Midland, they're thinking about their role or how they're being perceived in the community. Are they good civic citizens? Are they contributing there? Because in the sense with young people today, particularly, it's more like it was in the 60s, where a company that is not seen as a good civic citizen may find it hard in terms of marketing their own product, all other things being held equal. But it's the self-interest here with companies, particularly when you can ask them, well, if they partner with you and they invest in your products or in your research, in your teaching, to help solve these issues in terms of how that will help them, both in terms of the goodwill it will produce, but also in terms of how it will create future market opportunities for them, whether it's in public health or it being able to come up with the treatment or being able to produce the kinds of pharmaceuticals that the researchers will be able to bring to them. So I just really want to emphasize in terms of the challenge that we're facing today, particularly the role that partnerships with the business to corporate world can play, but not just from an altruistic perspective, but we need to think more from a self-interest. Talk to their self-interest, because I think that we can benefit largely from that. Thank you.
Aloha. I'm Virginia Hinshaw, and I serve as Chancellor of the University of Hawaii at Manoa, and also I'm a professor of virology at our medical school. And I really appreciated the comments, and I worked on influenza viruses for many years, so I know how important it is to keep both your local and your global neighbors healthy in order to impact on human health. And I'm blessed to live in Hawaii and work in Hawaii, where we talk about the global ohana, and that's the global family, and that we are responsible for each other. But I want to make a comment about the unuseful knowledge research. Because I think much of what you described, research is the ultimate experiential learning. You learn by doing. And a lot of what you described is social research. These experiences, as long as they're assessed, research creates the careers of tomorrow. It's the economic engine of the world. It does require partnering with corporate entities. I always felt it was our social responsibility to be sure that new findings get out there into the corporate world to make a difference and add great social value. And I'm going to give you one example where I think we don't want to lose sight of this type of activity because, you know, lasers, in all deference to our physicians, did not come out of an ophthalmology office. They came out of physicists, engineers, and mathematicians who were simply fascinated by light waves. They had absolutely no idea that anything practical would come out of that. And yet, they're invaluable tools today in so many ways. So you can't lose sight of that aspect as well as we try to meet. That is part of our social responsibility, and I think should be included in every discussion of meeting the social responsibility that we alone can have for the world today. So, mahalo.
Thank you very much. I'm Sharifah Hafsa, the Vice Chancellor of University Kebangsaan Malaysia, or the National University of Malaysia, more commonly known as UKM. I would like to thank you for inviting me, and I would like to thank the three speakers for the wonderful presentations. But particularly, I think we have a lot to learn from the keynote speaker this morning. And I want to take up your point about partnership. Of course, the partnership with our stakeholders require us to look at their self-interest, to appeal to that self-interest for them to come and participate. We usually call this triple helix, where the stakeholder, the community we are helping, and we, the university, are involved. Of course, the partnership can be with other universities. Since you've spoken about the partnership with philanthropy and corporations, I think I would like to look at the community, and we have a lot to learn from the speaker this morning about empowering them, first gaining their trust and empowering them, and later to weave in social enterprise for sustainability. This is a model we are working on now, and you can bring in the philanthropy as well as corporations as well to work on the social enterprise aspect of sustaining the work that we are doing to empower communities. One model, that's one point. The other point I would like to respond to you, that I think this is not a new idea. What we've been doing in my university is to give more power to the students and get them to sign learning contracts with us where they design their own activities in social responsibility. And once they have done the initiative, they've designed it, and say how they're going to do it, what is it that they're going to achieve, they take it to a center that we have created called the Center for Accreditation, and they get their program accredited. And they get the credits for their degree requirements. So this is what we've done. The students love it because they do it anyway, community service and so on, but now it is done in a very systematic manner. As a learning contract, they have to sign it, we have to agree, and they get the credits once they fulfill and show us what they have done. The other last point I would like to make is that I think universities being engaged with social issues is really gaining international momentum. I would like to inform you that there is a big movement called the Talwa Network. I believe some of you may be members of the Talwa Network, which is based in Tufts University in the United States. And the Talwa Network has asked UKM to initiate the regional network for them, and that would be Asia and Asia Pacific, which we have done. And the ASEAN University Network for University Social Responsibility has also asked to organize the activities at the ASEAN level. So we've put this together and call it Asia Engage. And we are launching this in next month, and I hope you will come. People from Talua will also be there, from AUN will be there, and the Asia Engage, as we would launch, we hope more will come on board, because it's really talking about what we are doing here, but pooling our resources and looking at each other's good practices as a global movement. Thank you very much.
John Belcher, SAF. I'm interested in Joseph Sung's distinction between the student as a consumer or customer and the student as maybe a client, or perhaps, as you put it, a student, or if you extend this to the medical environment, which you may be more comfortable with, the sick person as a patient as opposed to the sick person as a customer. The latter clearly would have the right to tell the doctor what was wrong with them, what the diagnosis was, and what the cure was, right? In the context of social responsibility, I think this distinction, which is not new, is very important. And our colleague from Ohio State mentions the decline in public funding for American public universities, which is quite staggering. The role of the student potentially as a consumer, as a customer, becomes stronger. Hong Kong has a relatively generous funding regime for higher education. I emphasize relatively, and fees there are quite low compared with, certainly compared with other developed economies in the region even. What are you able to do? What are Hong Kong universities able to do to deal with that dichotomy, that dilemma of students seeing themselves as consumers? And you can put social learning, experiential learning, social enterprise in a consumerist perspective, and students will expect to buy it. What as universities in Hong Kong do you think you might be able to do to deal with that dilemma?
First of all, I agree with you that this concept of consumer, student as consumer is in fact spreading worldwide, and is probably a global trend. Students in Hong Kong, as well as in the UK or any other parts of the world, feels that they pay the fees, and so they should receive good treatment. Their canteen should be well providing good food. The classroom should be clean and well air conditioned, and so on and so forth. And I have no objection, as I mentioned, to treat students well, both academically as well as providing a good environment. But what I want to emphasize is that instead of only claiming their rights, I think we should teach them their responsibilities as well. That means they are not here just to take, but to give to whoever they can help. Hong Kong, as you mentioned, is a relatively socialized system, and therefore the tuition fee is fairly low. But still a lot of students require grants and loans from the government to pay the tuition. However, the society, the values of the society is still very much towards self-interest. For example, whatever subjects that they take and the attitude that they adopt while in school is still very much self-centered. I hope we can promulgate the idea that we are not here just to take, but also to help and to offer. I think we have not been doing very much to move along that direction, but this is perhaps time for us to reflect on it and think about it.
Due to the time limitation, I think I would take last comment, and then once we get down and take the photo shot, we could come back and have lunch together, and you can talk more about that. Please, sorry.
I am Brigadier Garewal, Vice Chancellor, Chitkara University from India. What I feel is that we also need to first find out as to why have the universities lost their character. One of the reasons for that is the population explosion, the lack of resources which was pointed out, and then the penchant of the governments to increase the GER, that is the gross enrollment ratio, as far as the higher education is concerned. With the result, there was, it has resulted in massification of education. The globalization has also created its own problem, and we have been, we as academicians have been mute spectators, like the GATS. It has accepted education as a service that can be traded. And we are talking about that the commoditization of education has brought its own ills. We have accepted that as a law at the international level. So obviously those ills, then once we accept that commoditization, then the ills have to creep into the university system. So therefore there is a requirement to tackle the disease, the cause of the disease, that is the massification of education, how to do that, and perhaps what Dr. Hanafi said, that perhaps we revert back to the older version where we produced intellectuals. That is, I would really like to see as to how 47 programs have been converted into 4 programs. This is a really very interesting idea. And then perhaps those intellectuals could then be perhaps told to, okay, go and join the industry and help the society thereafter. Perhaps otherwise we are only tackling the symptoms and not the cause of the disease.
Allow me to just to one short comment on research that one of our colleagues brought up. I think the university shouldn't lose its sight on the way we do research. Even though we like very much for our research to be applicable for the betterment of the society, but we shouldn't forget, and we should also emphasize on basic research. Because basic research is the way that we find truth. And even though it's not applicable at the moment, the truth is found, but its potential is beyond our imagination. Just remind you just one example, that the discovery of the enzyme that permits the bacteria in the hot fountain to thrive have led to the mapping of human genome and countless discoveries that benefit mankind. That's all. Thank you.
It seems that the conversation could continue for an hour, but due to the time limitation and because the rain is coming, and the photo shot has to be outside. Therefore, I want to remind you 4 points very briefly. First, the group photo. Go down to the first floor and then follow our staff to the Prince Mahidol Circle. We have the photo shot there very quickly. And then after that, please come back for the presidents, vice chancellors, and those representatives. Please come back to have lunch here. And for board of director of APAIE, we have lunch for you at the Royal College Auditorium. And the third thing is, after we finish this, please don't forget to enjoy the 7 parallel sessions that are very, very useful. And lastly, tonight, please enjoy the party, the welcome reception dinner. We have, we have prepared so many things, and you know that Thai people knows how to party. So you will enjoy the food, the music, the performance, that perhaps some of you have to do it too. And before we leave, I would like to again thank Professor Udom Kachinthorn, who is the Dean of the Faculty of Medicine, Sirirat Hospital, for allowing us to host this very fruitful discussion in this historic ground of this hospital. Thank you so much. Please follow our